Member Chaplin.
Here.
Member Chavez.
Here.
Member Covert. Member Dessart.
Here.
Member DeCiani. Member Garcia.
Here.
Member Hart. Member Krajewski.
Here.
Member LaPlante. Member Ozog. Member Pachowski. Member Renahan. Member Rutledge.
Here.
Member Schwarzy.
Here.
Member Selman.
Here.
Member Tornatori. And Member Zay.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum. Do we have any public comment? Okay, no public comment. I just want to thank you all so much for attending today. I know sometimes afternoons are hard, but I really appreciate your time this afternoon. And with that, we're going to go right into our presentations. And I'd like to welcome Karen Ayola and the Health Department up here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you this afternoon. I'm going to, before I start the presentation, offer two principles that really frame the presentation, and Nick alluded to these earlier in his presentation. But as we pull together our proposal for this request, there are two things to keep in mind: that this request is based on current projections and current level of activity. Am I doing that? Okay. So if there are changes, if things ramp up or down, there would be significant differences in this projected proposal based on reality. And then secondly, and I think equally importantly, is to assure you that we are exploring continually other funding which would potentially reduce this request. So first of all, I'd like to express our appreciation from the DuPage County Health Department and to offer our commitment and provide assurance to you that the funds provided to our department have been invested wisely and effectively. As you know, the health department has served as a lead agency for the COVID response since January of 2020. We have served as the principal leader for all essential COVID response activities, such as testing, disease surveillance, case investigation, vaccine administration, and addressing health disparities within our community. We very much appreciated and invested the CARES dollars that you awarded to us last year. However, those dollars have all been exhausted as of early March. Since that time, we have expended approximately $8 million on essential COVID response activities. Now, of those $8 million, we have secured $3.5 million in offsetting grants, but this request today includes $4.5 million of dollars that have already been spent in service to our community in addressing the COVID response. Specifically, our request is really targeted on the Treasury guidance that says the notion that requests must support urgent COVID response activities and efforts to continue to decrease the spread of the virus and bring the pandemic under control, as well as the opportunity to address systemic public health and economic challenges that have contributed to the unequal impact of the pandemic on certain populations. So before I launch into what comes next, I wanted to take a minute to cover the accomplishments. If you remember, our CARES Act request was actually divided into different buckets of activities that would fall under the local public health purview and authority. So one of those was surveillance, and that includes our contact tracing and case investigation efforts. As of earlier this month, there have been since last August, there have been nearly 80,000 reported cases. Of those 80,000, almost 60 or 56,000 have completed case investigations. We have onboarded and trained 264 full-time and temporary employees, and our efforts have garnered us an exemplary record across the state of Illinois, reflecting the strength and efficiency of our program. One of those, for example, is when we brought on our temp employees, we were able to leverage the services and the expertise and the previous investment from our IT department, so that those additional employees who are considered temp employees were not provided with, we didn't have to purchase laptops or computers for them. They were able to use their own laptops, and it was almost an equivalent of, back in the 1970s and 80s, when you said you have to have an automobile and car insurance, you have to have a computer and an internet connection. And so we were able to save hundreds of thousands of dollars with that effort. The next bucket was community-based testing. And as you remember, in June of last year, we launched the largest and one of the only locally run mass test sites in the state. To date, 82,000 tests have been performed, and we have been operating a test site for more than 270 days now. So when we went to our vaccination efforts, we closed our efforts at testing, but we then contracted with a laboratory to continue to provide testing for our community. We also had a bucket that talked about technical assistance and resources for individuals, businesses, schools, and others. We launched our business response team in August of last year and our education response team shortly after. Both of those teams have provided a significant number of contacts to individuals across the year. Not every county had this level of support. In fact, our business response team leader, Mike DeSmit, last week was presenting at the National Conference on Environmental Health and really showcased the work that we did around that by really pivoting those staff to be resources to our business community. The education response team consisted of individuals from across our organization, and they also provided a great deal of support. You remember our public education campaigns. Those consisted of 3 primary campaigns: the Stay Safe initially, the Answer the Call, and then Our Shot DuPage. Over 60 million impressions from those campaigns alone, and then we had quite a few others. And finally, our vaccine efforts, and you guys talked about that this morning, so I won't go into a lot of detail. None of this would have been possible without the support of the county board, the dollars that you provided to us, as well as our partnerships across the community. But I've often given this presentation and failed to express our appreciation for 2 key individuals who aren't usually mentioned. And that is the amazing GIS team that is available to us in DuPage County. Hats off to Tom and Kevin particularly, who have really helped take the data that we have and make it much more visible and interactable with our community. So special thanks to them today. So now let's get to what our ask is. Oops. Our ask over the next 4 years totals $26.5 million. It's broken out again in different categories on the left-hand column of the slide, and then across different years, the different years on the right-hand column. I'll go into to more detail in each of those categories. But again, I want to reiterate that if we're able to garner additional or access additional resources, we would use those and not use these ARPA funds. So when we talk about ongoing response activities or response operations and staff redeployment, we are requesting $8.8 million, which represents the diverse range of public health emergency response needs, not specifically connected to one of the other buckets. So everything else falls into this category and includes our efforts to address health disparities, our messaging and public communication needs, our work on IT and infrastructure, our work with schools, our business and education team. We see those efforts as needing to continue as we go through these next several years. Additionally, we are requesting $4 million for testing. And while testing options have certainly expanded from a year ago, ongoing free access to community members and first responders remains an important tool in the timely detection and early identification of cases. We also have seen a real proliferation of kind of shady testing practices. So it's very important as we're responding to these cases and the opportunities to reduce exposure, that we have a reliable and top quality resource to utilize. Next is our disease surveillance or contact tracing case investigation. We're requesting $1.9 million for that. At the top level of staffing, when we were having 300 to 400 cases and more, probably there were some days that we had close to 1,000 new cases a day. We had about over 300 staff dedicated to this area. We have now reduced this, and by the end of this month, we will be closer to 100. However, this will continue to remain one of the key strategies. And maybe it's not going to be cases anymore. Maybe it's going to be identifying outbreaks. But the idea of the early identification and the quick response is going to be critical as we move forward. And finally, our vaccine administration efforts. We still have over 100,000 individuals in DuPage County who need to get vaccinated and who are eligible to be vaccinated today. But we also understand that the days of getting people kind of herded in these mass vaccination efforts are no longer effective. So we need to pivot and adjust our strategies. And so now we are really looking at our mobile and much more targeted vaccine strategies. We also think that there's an opportunity, or there's a likelihood that we will see before the end of this year that the approval will be made for vaccine for individuals who are younger than 12. However, that request would be part of that contingency that you guys talked about this morning. Our mobile van finally came in, and we're so thrilled with that. We are out 6 days a week, and we are completely booked every day through the end of August. We are leveraging our partnerships with villages, towns, libraries, businesses, ethnic grocery stores, apartments, not-for-profits, and schools to achieve success in reaching out to vaccine-reluctant individuals. So those are our direct COVID response activities. Next comes the community recovery. And the guidance outlines support for a broad range of public health needs to support a strong and equitable response. We know that in the county of DuPage, just like in counties all across the US, some of the most disproportionately impacted individuals are people who are already in that vulnerable or struggling category. We know that this pandemic has had an impact on, and a negative impact on individuals' mental health, on their substance use just in general, which has led to the need for more treatment. We also recognize that the health department is one of the very few providers of those services who accept individuals on Medicaid managed care plans or with no insurance. We have seen over 42,000 calls to our 24/7 crisis line in the past year. And we have unfortunately seen an increase in the number of completed suicides across our community over this last 18 months, as well as a need for overdose, heroin, and other substance use treatment. Prior to COVID, the health department had traffic in and out of our buildings and our staff in the community of over 800 individuals every single day who fall in this category. And I was thinking it was less than that. And so when we pulled the data and we looked at it, I was stunned. But 800 to 900 vulnerable people are coming through our doors on a daily basis. So we are asking for funding in the amount of $9 million to increase our investments in mental health treatment, in substance misuse treatment is the language in the Treasury guidelines, as well as crisis intervention. We also are asking for that funding to cover some of the cost of increasing and making sure that individuals who may be newly eligible for public benefits, individuals who lost their jobs or haven't been able to get back in the workforce, to connect them with necessary safety net programs. And finally, to promote healthy childhood environments through home visiting programs. Again, research has showed us that everyone has been impacted by the pandemic, but particularly families with children have borne the brunt. So with that, it equals $26.5 million, and I am ready for questions.
Okay, so we'd like to open up for questions. Member Tornatori.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for all you do. I assume that this ask is based on status of the viruses that exist today, and not based on any increase based on the new variants or anything like that.
Correct, correct.
And is there anything built into your request that would take into consideration a resurgence or a surge if we unfortunately get to that?
So we did not build it into our request. However, we worked with Nick to make sure that it was built into the contingency, that $18 million.
Right. Okay. All right. So that's where that's
Yes.
it. All right. My second question, if I can, Madam Chair, is that regarding the systematic public health and economic challenges, everything else you've asked for is directly related to COVID. This is a little bit separated from that. I presume that the guidelines would require some type of synergy between COVID and the things that we're going to use this $9 million for, and that you're prepared to be able to connect the dots.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Tornatori. Do we have any other questions from the, okay, Member Selman, Member Krajewski, and then Member Renahan? Go ahead, Member Selman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, thank you so much for your presentation and for all your hard work. I think the entire board is just so grateful for you and your team. My question is about that $9 million. I know for your entire 26.5 million requests, you're sort of treating that as your maximum and hoping to find grants. But I'm wondering if we can sort of exempt the 9 million chunk from being reduced, and that if we get grants, it's simply in addition to that 9 million. I think any of us, probably even in our own families, can see either mental health or addiction issues are just growing all around us. And I worry that, as Member Tornatori brings up, if we have more variants and we have to go through lockdowns again, I really worry about what that could see. So I, of course, respect and am thrilled that we're looking for other sources to sort of be very careful with our ARPA dollars. But the $9 million piece, I think we should treat that as a floor and probably watch the needs grow, unfortunately.
I very much appreciate that and would like to mention that, you know, finding a qualified mental health professional or a substance use treatment professional is not something that you can just flip a switch, kind of like we found 200 people to work at the mass vaccination site. And so it would be very, very helpful to have that opportunity to use that as the base. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Selman. Member Krajewski?
Thank you. And thank you, Karen, again for the presentation. We heard earlier this morning, the revenue replacement was also part of that 18 million contingency. And I think what Karen and her health department does is probably one of the most important things that if we do have variance, this money's for 4 years coming down the road, we may need more money. And I'd like to see us throw another 10 million into that contingency just for this health department, that potentially stuff that could come up in the next 3 years. We have 4 years to use this money. But we already heard that revenue replacement was part of our 18 million. Pretty soon, everything we ask for will say it's in that 18 million contingency. But I really think we should set aside more money in contingency for the health department for anything that may come in the future. And if 2-3 years down the road that doesn't, we can always then open it up to all kinds of other programs that are eligible.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Renahan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Dennis Brennan, thank you. You kept us involved in knowing what was going on. You've been in the trenches a long time. I appreciate it. One comment and then one quick question. Your crisis team was great. I mean, I had the opportunity to connect some families and I just hats off.
They do magic at really tough points. And I think to do that, and what they've been telling us is that they're really tired and they're pretty burned out. And the complexity and the challenges that are coming to them are not getting easier. The complexities and challenges and situations are more complex and complicated. And these people day in, day out at 2 in the morning on Saturday night will come through with, a level of hope and response. That's pretty amazing.
And calm.
Yes.
I mean, comfort. And, it wasn't even my family, but it was, people close to me. But anyway, my question is, the $4.5 million that you originally spoke of, that's included in this 26.5?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So even though it's not broken down, that's
right. That's a part of it.
I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Renahan. Member Pachowski?
We have 8.8 million regarding racial and ethnic minorities in DuPage. What specifically are we doing to target those? Because I know when we first were talking to you, we were so concerned that the word wasn't getting to Hispanic communities and we had to do more. And it just seems to me, that was a big issue with me, because I think that the outreach to those groups, the less educated, the people who are minorities, needs to be addressed. And I would like if you could elaborate on, more than just information technology and media community. So do you have anything else that you
Sure. So that addressing health disparities is one sliver of those ongoing response activities. So primarily what that includes is, or probably most obviously what that includes is our HEART coalition, the Health Equity and Response Team. And that's a coalition that we've brought together in response to COVID. It started with the prevention messages and making sure families had access to masks. And remember when there weren't masks and we had people donating cloth masks and sanitizer, in big jugs that we'd break down into little bottles and things like that. And we'd give it out to groups who are trusted. So it'd be the Chilean Association, or it would be UMDARD, or it would be some of the NAACP, who would then use those resources and take them as trusted members within that community and reach out to those members. We have continued to meet as a group over the course of this pandemic, and now they are really helping drive some of these targeted vaccination efforts. So it's not me going and knocking at the door of someone who doesn't look or sound like me. It's someone who looks and sounds like them who's going to the door. And we're finding that that's really very effective. In fact, the weekend of the 4th of July, Saturday, everybody was off, right? And we had a couple last minute requests for our caravan to do vaccinations at an ethnic grocery store. And we did it, we did 2 different stores and hit nearly 100 people that day who had been just waiting. It wasn't really the right time, but I don't know, a beautiful Saturday before a holiday, they're like, okay, I'm in, and they got vaccinated. So those are the kind of efforts that we've been able to really leverage through our heart group.
Thank you. Any other, Member Desart, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, I just cannot say enough about you and Dennis Brennan and your whole staff. I mean, from day one back, I remember back in like February 2020, you started updating us on this new thing called COVID-19 that was brand new to all of us. And you had your staff daily update the board on statistics regarding COVID. And you've taken calls from me on a Sunday morning or a Friday night. And I just, I just get chills when I think about how greatly you stepped up and performed with this brand new novel coronavirus that hit us a year and a half ago. So first of all, thank you. Secondly, I know that, I believe in my heart that the number one thing that we do at the county is the health and safety of our residents. So I know that Nick Hotmeyer and staff are always looking for kind of the pulse of the board. So I just wanted to echo Member Krajewski. I too agree that we need to add another $10 million onto that $18 million contingency in case of what? I don't know. In case COVID mutates and we have to come up with new procedures, new processes, in case we find out that we have to offer boosters right away, in case, I don't know what in case, but I really believe that we need to pack another 10 million onto that contingency in case something happens where we need our health department to act quickly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Member Desart. Any other questions from the committee here? Oh, Member Tornatore, go ahead, please.
Just quickly, if we were to add another $10 million, if we were to add another $10 million to the contingency, that would have to come from somewhere that we've already allocated this morning, right? I mean, just so we know that money isn't just printed somewhere. We have to figure out where that's coming from. So, I mean, I think it's a great idea. Look, as the president of the board of the health department, give us as much money as you can. I'm all for it. But the reality is that, we have to remember that if we put 10 million into, Jeff, I presume you're going to have the answer here. If we're going to take 10 million and add it to the contingency fund, I presume it's going to come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Oh, go ahead.
We haven't allocated everything, the whole
No, we have.
million. And so it's good to do that now, because once the portal opens, we'll get a lot of requests and we might not have that opportunity later on down the road. So allocating that additional 10 million, if the board would like to do that, now would be probably the best time.
Thank you. Thank you. Member Troy, do you have any other questions? Okay, thank you. Member Desart, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to correct Member Tornatore that what he said is just not true. And Jeff kind of spoke to that. But if you saw the presentation this morning, and I know that you did, we have $55 million in remaining ARPA funds for the first allocation and $22.5 million in remaining ARPA funds for the second allocation, excuse me. So there is money left available to put aside an extra 10 or even $20 million in case. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Desart. Any other questions from Member DeCiani, I see you waving there.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Chairwoman Chaplin. I wanted to know on the Delta variant, have we had any significant numbers on that new variant in DuPage, or has that been pretty minimal? Karen, can you expand on that?
We're aware of 11 cases of the Delta variant in DuPage County. We don't think that really reflects accurately the spread of the Delta variant, because it's still very arbitrary on what specimens are collected and submitted for testing. So yes, we know that the Delta variant is here, and we also know that based on the Delta variant that it spreads very, very quickly, and is the viral load. We were on a call with our hospital partners this morning, and Dr. Chug was talking about how studies have shown that the viral load in the chest cavity is like 1,000 times more than the original strain of COVID. So very concerning, and just another reason to get a vaccine today.
Yeah, from what I understand, the vaccine, especially the Pfizer, is very strong against the Delta variant. So that's a good thing. I know we've got some people that are still reluctant on the vaccine, and hopefully we can get those folks educated and over the hump to go ahead and get it to keep these numbers down. So
Absolutely.
I had heard a number of like 84 in the state. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but
Yeah, not sure. Mhm.
hoping to keep those numbers as low as possible.
Absolutely.
And try to put this virus to bed here. But thank you for the expansion on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member DeCiani, Member Rutledge, and then Member Chavez. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chairman Chaplain. Karen, again, thank you for all you've done. Clearly, the chairman's statistics that he gave us this morning about the success of DuPage County is entirely,
Is entirely a team effort.
Okay,
So
okay.
yes, yes.
But their team leader
Yes,
is
okay.
awesome. So don't shift that
Thank
off.
you.
Something I heard over the lunchtime, which concerned me, was I believe it was in Mississippi, there were 11 children diagnosed with the Delta variant, and that 9 of them were on ventilators. That 84 you said of the Delta variant in DuPage County, is that across all ages, or is it more like what we've been used to seeing that is more elderly?
Yeah, I do not have that information. However, that is the concern. The more this virus mutates, we are along for the ride with this virus. It's not like we're taming this virus. We're along for the ride, right? So as it mutates, it becomes more infectious and infects people differently and affects people differently. And certainly school age children are some of the, especially the under 12, some of the ones that we're most concerned with.
Thank you, Karen.
Mhm.
Member Chavez, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So I just would like maybe some clarification from Jeff, because I'm seeing a little bit of discrepancy, at least in the way I'm understanding it, between what Member Desart said and what Member Tornatore said. So if we place this $10 million as a set aside, is that what it is? And then we're just kind of leaving it there to be used if needed, but it's sort of untouchable? Is that how that works?
Well, yeah, it would be a contingency. So, right, we would just hang on to it. And then, if towards the end of the 4th year, if we didn't use it, we could allocate it then, like an emergency fund.
Okay.
That's the way
all
I
right.
understand it. But go ahead, Jeff. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we're sort of setting aside maybe current, more urgent needs for kind of an if maybe ahead, which is probably the best way to think of it.
Well, I guess depending what you think is urgent, right?
Okay,
So,
right. Okay,
yeah. So,
All right.
right.
thank
Yeah.
you.
So thank you. Thank you so much. So are there any other questions, Member Schwarzy?
Excuse me for interrupting, but we cannot hear Member Schwarzy.
Okay, I'm online now. So based on this morning's presentation by Mr. Kottmeyer, there's approximately 77 million, almost 78 million unaccounted for. That obviously doesn't include this discussion on the health department. It won't include the discussion in August for HHS and so forth. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Member Schwarzy. Any other questions from anybody on the committee? Member Krajewski, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Cheryl's had a number of inquiries from park board, school board, or park boards, fire protection districts, not-for-profits. Once we open that portal, we're going to have $230 million worth of requests. So, and if we start giving it out to every cause, it's going to be gone. I mean, we'll have more requests than we actually have money for. So that's why putting them extra money in the contingency now, we can always honor those requests 2 years from now, 3 years. If we give all that money out because of all these requests that come in, something happens down the road with a variant, we're not going to have the money.
Okay, Thank you, Member Krajewski. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, I just have a couple comments. Karen, really again, thank you so much for your presentation and all you've done the last year. You and your team really did a great job. And I really like the presentation that you brought forward today. I know as a committee, we've talked about not doing multi-year plans because we're speaking for a future board, but I think in this case with the health department, we're being very proactive in our approach here, and that this is a good long-term plan and a way to stay on top of this coronavirus and this pandemic. So I really appreciate everything you've done, and I think it's a very well thought out and good plan. And I think, you know, maybe at the next finance committee, we'll add on the agenda the additional $10 million for discussion by this committee to put in contingency.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
so much. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And next on our agenda, we will be hearing from Greg Bevelow with Choose DuPage.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman, members of the County Board. Greg Bedlove, President and CEO of Choose DuPage. I'm going to try to keep my presentation as brief as possible because I believe you're familiar with a large component of it and have seen it with the CARES Act. So very briefly, we are proposing that if it is the will of the County Board that we continue the marketing efforts that we spearheaded with the CARES Act dollars under the ARPA program with the ARPA guidelines. One noticeable, if I could advance to the next slide, sorry. One thing I do want to point out is that our interpretation and talking with experts on ARPA is that any efforts that we have from an economic development perspective cannot be simply general economic development. It has to be for disproportionately impacted industries. Now, as you all know, there are many disproportionately impacted industries here in DuPage County, but last time we did a program like this in conjunction with the CVB and the health department, our focus, because of CARES, was health and safety. This time, the focus would be more towards disproportionately impacted industries. Other than that, I'm going to go quickly to the next slide because the goals and the objectives are basically the same for this program, should you choose to fund it as they were for the last program, which is obviously to raise the profile and help those businesses located throughout DuPage County. Our audiences would be largely the same. Once again, the business and decision makers, the site selectors and the brokers within those disproportionately impacted industries. Next slide, please. Our approach would remain largely the same as it was the last time. The creation of a creative campaign, which we would then deploy into the various markets that we're trying to reach. Next slide, please. Our marketing strategy is content, advertising, and outreach. It's literally that simple. That's what we did for the last campaign that we used with CARES dollars. I would also like to let you know, and I'm happy to go over them with you, kind of similarly what Karen did, I'm sorry, Director Ayola did. We have results from the CARES Act marketing initiative that Choose DuPage led or co-led with our friends at the CVB and the health department. I shared them with all of you earlier in a packet. I'm happy to review them if you want to, but the results are, you have those results. Every measurement that we used, from social media impact to website clicks to visits to actual opportunities for economic development deals happening in DuPage County, exceeded the expectations that we had set for the program. Next slide, please. Content marketing, you're all familiar with that. That's our social media. That's the visual media used to train and educate audiences. Next slide, please. Advertising and promotion. Again, I want to move quickly here because I know this is an afternoon meeting. Next slide, please. Our outreach activity, you all know the outreach that we do currently to the business community, not only here, but afar, and we would continue that with this program. Next slide, please. How do we measure success? As I mentioned earlier, next slide, please. We look at things like clicks, conversion rates, visits to the website, social media management, and most importantly, getting deals done, getting businesses to move here to DuPage County, and we're starting to see that activity increase dramatically. Next slide, please. The best success, obviously, increased absorption of commercial real estate. I can't emphasize this enough, as I think Karen and her team would agree. we're in a new normal when it comes to people returning to office space. And we have current Class A, we have a lot of Class A office space in DuPage County, and our vacancy rates are higher than they've been in the last 20 years. So a lot of our efforts would be focused on helping that industry get people in conjunction with health department safety protocols back to work. Next slide, please. Or back in the office. A budget. Obviously for this year, and this would be a fluid and dynamic budget. If a year from now, we're kind of back to the good old salad days, if you will, of just economic development is roaring in DuPage County, and we didn't need these efforts, perhaps we would come back and say we could have an adjustment. We only have a portion of 2021 left. So how do you deploy those funds? So what we basically did was use the same dollar amount that you all allocated with the CARES program, which is $1 million a year, $500,000 this year. And there you see the breakdown from advertising and production services. The majority of this is passed through to actual advertising and promotion. Next slide, please. So this is the one I wanted to spend just a little bit more time on. This is one that's very near and dear to my heart, and I hope it is to yours. Myself and Chairman Cronin and several folks in the economic development community here in DuPage County have been working with our counterparts in Cook, Will, Kane, Kendall, McHenry, and the city of Chicago on true regional economic development throughout northeastern Illinois. We're very defensive of DuPage County. We want businesses to come to DuPage County, but there needs to be a recognition that a business moving from Chicago to DuPage or DuPage to Chicago, especially when incentive dollars are included, is not an economic development win. It is in fact an economic development loss. And for years, our groups worked in silos, to be frank. And we didn't work cohesively as a region, much like Phoenix does, much like Austin does, much like San Diego does, much like Milwaukee does with the Milwaukee 7. Doesn't mean, I'm not standing up here, please, advocating for the demise of Choose DuPage. I'm saying that Choose DuPage, working with the city of Chicago on real foreign direct investment, real international exposure to companies overseas and internal companies or local companies on organic growth opportunities with our seven collar county, whatever you want to call it, conglomeration and the city of Chicago can get a lot more done. This is being led by CMAP, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. President Preckwinkle from Cook County has already indicated her full support of an initiative like this. The reason I'm giving this as a preface is because when you have this many counties involved in the city of Chicago involved, defining a budget and figuring out who pays for what can be a challenge. So if we could advance to the next slide, we are requesting $1 million, but as other folks have said, that would be a placeholder. If we flush it all out and we determine to really accomplish what we want to accomplish as what I'll refer to as a super region, we only need $500,000, then we would come back to you. But from a timing perspective, to be blunt, we're not there yet. We expect to be there by the next meeting of the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning Chair Council meeting, which I believe is scheduled for September. I will tell you, $1 million is being used as a baseline, and then the increase or decrease from $1 million would be based on the county's population. Next slide, please. So in summary, next slide, please. Very straightforward. The marketing and business retention campaign is very similar to the CARES Act and the regional economic development, which is a 4-year total, dynamic, based on, as I mentioned, how the regional efforts are funded by the other counties of 7.5 million. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead. Yes, Member LaPlante.
Oh, maybe that's fine. Oh, thank you very much for your help. Mr. Bedeloff, can you please give us an estimate on what the other counties in that grade 8 group are contributing? Do you have a ballpark?
It's safe to say, I think at this point that the DuPage would, because DuPage and Cook Chairman Cronin and President Preckwinkle have spearheaded this along with Choose DuPage and the Cook County Center for Economic Development. It's been discussed that Choose DuPage and DuPage County would be the $1 million benchmark. So Chicago would be higher, Cook County would be higher, proportionate to their population, and McHenry, Lake, Kane, Kendall, Will, and Lake would be lower based on their population.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member LaPlante. Member Pachowski, go ahead, please.
With this regional partnership, I always thought DuPage did better. We were on our own because we were always innovative, we were cutting edge. And now it seems to me we'd be sharing what we have with those who have not developed or been ahead of the curve like we have. I assume that my opinion is not what you all.
I don't know that your opinion is not fair and not accurate, but I would suggest that the intent is to not lose our creativity, our entrepreneurship, and our pro-business culture. It is to reach additional markets as a region. I mean, Choose DuPage cannot go to boots on the ground, and I'm not suggesting that this would be what we do, but we don't have boots on the ground in China. The state of Illinois doesn't have trade offices all over the country anymore. So this would be intended to try to reach markets primarily that we haven't reached before. And then hopefully, I'm prejudiced because I think DuPage is the greatest, our assets would bubble to the top and it would give us a distinct advantage over those. So that's number one, Member Pachowski. Number two, I have always been a believer, and forgive me if you disagree with me, a strong Chicago is absolutely critical for a strong DuPage County. And a strong DuPage County is absolutely critical for a strong Chicago. We get more accomplished when we work together than when we work separately. And hopefully, one of the additional outcomes of this initiative will be a memo of understanding amongst all of the economic development agencies that, as I mentioned earlier, poaching business is not the key to economic development success. Organic growth and turning around the mindset and some of the challenges that we face in the site selection community for the region. I never want to give up my advantage, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Pachowski. Member Tornatori, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Greg, for your presentation. Up until now, the money that we've allocated through CARES Act and others to the businesses in DuPage County have been given to those businesses to put in their banks to help the money that they lost as a result of COVID. This request is essentially, for lack of a better word, for marketing, to establish and move the economic development forward. So my question is, and I think I know the answer, and I hope your answer is going to be the same. Why is Choose DuPage going to be doing this as opposed to hiring a marketing firm and then allowing Choose DuPage to do what it's always done and focus on the job that your mission statement was before COVID hit us?
Well, first, at the risk of sounding cocky, because we're really good at it. And we know the market, and we know the site selectors, and we know the buzzwords, and we know the keys to success from an economic development. It's what we do day in and day out. Secondly, we would not propose doing this in a vacuum. We would propose doing it with marketing partners who can provide us the search engine optimization, the keywords, and the other ingredients that would needed to be successful in such an endeavor.
Great. What I wanted to hear.
Thank you, Member Tornatori. Do we have any other questions from the committee? Oh, Member Krajewski, is that your hand up there?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Greg, again for the presentation. And I know you touched on the one issue, which is the empty office space. But the other issue that is affecting DuPage businesses is the ability to hire people, having the people out there available. So a lot of businesses can move forward and do much better, but they just can't hire the help. And I'm not sure what your program is going to do to market that or what the answer is to that. But I think the two key things are the empty office space and vacancies to try to attract people to. And a lot of that's created by remote working at home. But businesses I talk to, they cannot find qualified help, and they're very busy. They have people coming in, but they just can't find the help. So I don't know how you're going to address that
Well, you know, that's interesting, Member Krajewski. I will tell you that prior to the onset of COVID, our board had approved, we have a robust marketing budget as part of our normal operating procedure. And our board had approved a marketing campaign, if you'll forgive the bad metaphor, that was designed around DuPage County is no longer your father's Oldsmobile. Because we felt that we needed to attract at that point, pre-COVID, immediately pre-COVID, some of the tech workers, some of creating that vibe that we could create centers of innovation and we could get businesses out here that younger people would find more attractive to work for. COVID hit, and you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. The focus now is we need warm bodies. We just need workers in these facilities. We are currently working with the University of Illinois, College of DuPage, several other institutions of higher learning who either call DuPage County home or have a footprint in DuPage County to try and create that worker pool. But you're absolutely correct. And I think we all know it's not unique to Illinois. I was just up in Wisconsin, and gas stations are offering $500 signing bonuses and starting people at $18 an hour, and the help wanted signs are still up. So it's not unique to us.
Okay, thank you, Member Krajewski. Do we have any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, seeing none. Greg, thank you so much for your presentation. You know, I agree with you, having a strong Chicago really benefits DuPage, but it benefits the whole state. I mean, it's an economic engine. We have to work collaboratively with them. And I think if we can, like you said, use this to elevate our platform, and then on that platform show how we shine, then, you know, hopefully it'll work for the best for us.
The Choose DuPage position on that, Chairwoman Chaplin, is we need to start thinking of it as Chicago land as opposed to Chicago. And because to your point, when you're recruiting businesses out of Central Europe, or you're trying to go after emerging markets, with all due respect to all the great municipalities in DuPage County, Chicago is still the name recognition. So we're trying to build the region.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, and then next on our agenda, we have the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau. So Beth, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Beth Marchetti, Executive Director of the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau. I started when I was about 16 years old, but I'm happy to say that I've been at the Bureau cheerleading DuPage County since 1999. So I thank you for the opportunity today. I'd also like to thank the Health Department. It's been a great collaboration, as well as Choose DuPage, but I also have an opportunity here to thank our hotel partners. As you know, they could not phone it in at the start of the pandemic. They were housing the homeless. They were housing Benedictine University students who had nowhere to go. So I do have a couple hotel partners with me today that I'm going to introduce in a few minutes. I think I also have a couple hotel partners on Zoom today. But I want to thank them. And as a representative of the industry, I'm not here today. I am with the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau, but I'm representing the 24,000 people employed in the hospitality industry. This is a huge economic driver. We are second only to Chicago in tourism spend. So when Mr. Bedloff talked about Chicago, we do need Chicago to rebound, but we have a great opportunity as well. So got my power here. Okay. There we go. So we're going to talk a little bit today about creating demand for visitation to DuPage County. So this is this ARPA ask has been a work in progress. I started a document in March, and due to US Treasury guidelines changing, it's been a work in progress. So it's based on what we know today, as everybody has said. Again, I'm asking on behalf of the industry, and hopefully this next slide will go. Do I need to point particular, Wendy? No. Okay. So what's different about the CARES Act versus the ARP ask is tourism is specifically spelled out in this in the actual guidelines. So to respond to the public health emergency, and obviously to aid impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. So it is really important as we have been hit, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. In fact, we have been hit so hard, the Illinois General Assembly assigned a chair in each of the Senate and the House committees. So Sarah Feigenholtz is chairing the Senate committee, and Lamont Robinson is chairing the House with Vice Chairwoman Tara Costa Howard. So they all realized that tourism was a very important driver for the state of Illinois. I had shared a video a couple weeks ago with some of the Economic Development Committee chairs, committee members, and at the time we were recognizing Jim Riley. Jim was very instrumental years ago in getting McCormick Place expanded, and Chicago became the convention city in the country. So we do want Chicago to rebound, and we are reliant on Chicago to bring in those hotel tax dollars. But we also know we have great opportunities as well. So we're going to go into the loss here. So the national average of revenue loss is 24% decline. DuPage, unfortunately, was well below the national average. So our decline in revenue was 67%. So we're almost 3 times the decline. Now I have an answer for that. We are an interesting community of over 20 full service hotels. So the communities that have select service hotels that don't have ballrooms and banquet facilities do a little bit better during this time. But when we have full service, big, huge ballroom spaces to fill and we cannot fill them, we are going to see revenues fall. I also have some hotel partners here today that can tell you their restaurants are not open. We have one that is, but we have one restaurant that they can't find help. So that restaurant is not open. While we have lost significant help and employees in DuPage County, we are recovering. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Most of my hotels are reporting about 50% still in bringing back their employees, so they're having trouble finding staff. So I wanted to talk a little bit about decrease in hotel tax collections, and these are just some examples of communities. Prior to the pandemic, the Village of Oak Brook generated, with just their 3% local hotel tax, $1.3 million. They ended 2020 with a mere $458,000, a 65% decrease. Downers Grove, 62% decrease, Glen Ellen, 74% decrease, Lombard, 52% decrease. So these are just some examples of communities that have some hotel properties. So again, DuPage County ended the year with the loss of room revenue down 57.3%. So in a normal year, we collect 369 million. We lost 213 million this past year. So some of the things that we are looking at mitigating is decline in revenues. We have limited resources to attract guests and pieces of business, minimal sales and marketing efforts. And I think you're going to hear again from our hotels. The general managers are cleaning rooms. The directors of sales are mopping floors, baking muffins, being the baristas. So we are working round the clock, but it's been, I think we're burnout as well. We have minimal sales and marketing programs, and obviously they're facing operational shortfalls. So the goal is economic revitalization, sales streams for business stabilization, and address inequity through workforce recovery. So as Nick Kottmeyer mentioned this morning, it's all about economic recovery, and that's where the Bureau comes in. We make money for the county, bottom line, from just food and beverage and retail. From the 4 million guests that stayed in our hotels in 2019, we generated $10 million for DuPage County. Again, sales tax revenue. We need these visitors to come back to our hotels. Doesn't like me. Oh, okay. 63% of our industry employees are people of color. So part of the ARPA ask is that we stabilize the industry. It's truly a matter of equity. And according to the U.S. Travel Association, which the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau is a proud member, it's a catalyst for higher wages. I think a lot of times I tell people when you see a front desk manager, you'll probably see a general manager eventually. It is a catapult of industry. It is a job starter. So $82,000 is the average career salary of Americans whose first job was in travel. 2 in 5 Americans had a job in travel are now earning more than $100,000 a year. So it's not just a housekeeping job or a different job that supports the back of the office. It is a pivotal catalyst for job growth. We will continue to work with our partners, obviously, Choose DuPage, the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and the Illinois Office of Tourism, the Health Department, and WorkNet DuPage. So we've been really strengthening these partnerships. WorkNet has been posting job openings for us through the hotel partnerships that we have. Obviously, we've enjoyed a great relationship with Choose DuPage, serving on each other's boards. The Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity is superseding the Illinois Office of Tourism, which we are a proud partner and the only certified bureau in DuPage County that's a partner of theirs. So today, the ask is in 3 buckets: meeting and event stimulus, funds to help our group business come back due to COVID, the DuPage Sports Commission and countywide studies, and then a multi-year marketing program to recover from COVID. So we're going to talk about that first bucket. So 3/4 of employees are willing to travel in the current environment. And again, all of this depends on what the new health records are in terms of data, but hotels need to be able to offer some of the services again and the amenities that we've so enjoyed. Transportation has been hurt very, very abruptly, hybrid meetings. And I also want to talk about, as everybody else has today, some of our communities are getting some substantial art money as well, and they're willing to help their hotels as well. So we have a matching grant program, and we will continue to talk about that as resources become available. So sports. So due to COVID, our sports efforts had to be halted, but we know this is a huge area of opportunity, but it's not just sports, it's events of any kind. And those events sometimes require bid fees and costs associated with that. So one of the asks is a countywide development study that encompasses different opportunities for DuPage County so that we're not being redundant. We're not building soccer fields in 4 different communities. We're not converting grass to turf in 4 different communities, but instead hardwood courts in one area, ice in another area, et cetera, but also other opportunities for bringing people together. I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't talk about Cantini in December is going to be hosting a huge event for us, and we are the local organizing committee. It's called USA Cycling Cyclocross. It is expected to have 2,000 riders, 10,000 spectators over the weekend. Those are the kind of things that the Bureau does as a countywide event that brings in hotel stays. And then obviously we talk a little bit about marketing, and I'm going to fly through these slides because I just wanted to have my overall message be our information and our decision making is based on data. So I know that the Great Rivers and Routes in the St. Louis area launched a $550,000 campaign in 7 markets. That's going to come back in just a minute. I'm going to talk about it. Crane Chicago Business, if you didn't see the article last week, Chicago needs to rebound, like we said. LA, New York, all the big metro communities are already in market launching their campaigns. We are behind in Illinois. Here's my ask, but before you gasp, it's $15 million in those 3 buckets. But I also want to show you what other communities and other counties are being asked of. The Will County County Department is being asked for $27 million from the Heritage Corridor and the Chicago Southland CVBs. Oops, I'm so sorry, I hit the button. Cook County, of course, Cook County is going to give Chicago some money, but the 5 suburban CVBs of Rosemont, Chicago North Shore, Oak Park, Meet Chicago Northwest, which used to be called the Woodfield CVB and is a direct competitor of ours, and the Chicago Southland area are asking for a $35 million ask. And then Lake County, which by the way, has $500 maybe 2/3 of the hotels that we have in DuPage County is also being asked for $15 million. A little bit about the states and our surrounding areas and the drive markets that we hail from, that our visitors hail from. Illinois launched a $6 million summer campaign. Ohio launched a $35 million summer campaign. Pure Michigan launched a $60 million campaign. Minnesota, 40 million, Wisconsin, 2 times their 2019 numbers. Why this is relevant, it is expensive to be in tourism market. You're competing against Expedia, Travelocity, Hotels.com. You have to buy keywords, a search engine marketing. So it is not an inexpensive endeavor, but it does return $9 for every dollar invested. Again, the goals are to bring that leisure guest. We do have a lot of leisure visitors this summer, and as our hotels will attest, weddings, they're going crazy with gangbusters with weddings, pent up demand from last year. But secondly, we need that business traveler to come back. That's the high value customer. And I'm not naive enough to think that it's going to change. It will. We have to offer services like hybrid meetings, but we will be able to get some of those conventioners back to our area. So again, metrics, economic impact calculators. We have that tool now. I can tell you exactly how many full-time employees. I can tell you how many hotel rooms. I can tell you the impact of the area. I can talk about the food and beverage tax that's generated and eventually tell you about the sales tax. Increased hotel revenues during the campaigns would be an area that I can report on. As our hotels will mention, Smith Travel Report, we can tell you the occupancy during the times that we have an event here. And then obviously increase hotel bookings year over year and the length of stay. Again, this just goes to show you that we do have a lot of friends and family, visiting friends and family. This might be a little difficult to see, but we do have a lot of people that are here for attending events. We have a lot of medical meetings that are here, and also other purposes, seminars, class training, consulting work. We have to be able to market across all platforms, from the mobile device that you have to your personal computer, to your work computer, the tablets, your e-readers. We've got to hit it all. We also would like to do a little bit further drive market. So the CARES money last year, we did a 3-mile radius. We have an opportunity to hit a 6-mile radius, which would double the amount of people that we can hit. Potential reach is 73.1 million people. Again, we want to just show you that our demographic information and research, it's all based on research. I also wanted to show you that the words that we're going to be targeting, we already have on our website. So it's already there. There'll be an efficiency that we've already been doing the research on these words. So have you ever looked at something and then the ad follows you around and around and around? And that's what we want to do. It's a little annoying, but you have to see an ad 8 times before you change your behavior. So obviously this would be something that we would be doing, was retargeting. It's very effective. We've not had the money to do this. So this is my last slide of my presentation. And I wanted to go back to that rivers and roots example that I showed you, and it might be very difficult to see. I did a search a couple days ago, things to do in DuPage County. Guess what came up? That second line there says Great Rivers and Roots, St. Louis area. That's because they bought all their drive market feeder markets. If we're not doing it, and if we're not getting those guests here, somebody else is. And this is the example. So I did, it's not in my presentation, but I did give a handout to some of the results from our CARES dollars. While we did great metrics with eyeballs and web clicks and conversion rates with getting people on our website, the most important thing that the CVB was able to do was to convert to room nights. That's the telling thing, right? We can get all the eyeballs we want, but if we don't have Expedia ads that convert to hotel rooms, That's what we really need, and that's where we're going to be more impactful. So I do have that in your packet, and I'm happy to email the board after this meeting, because I know that was something that was requested. At this time, I really wanted to take an opportunity to introduce two partners of mine that are here today. And I'm not going to tell you where they're from, because this is one of the points of my story. I think a lot of times people don't think of hotels as hurting right now. Oh, it's a Marriott. Oh, it's a Hilton. No, these are small business owners that manage or own these hotels. So on Zoom today, I have Robert Brand with Davidson Hospitality and JPD Oakbrook Holdings. I have Don Hill from Ambridge. And with me in person, I have Lee Honer from First Hospitality, if you want to come up for a second, Lee. And I also have Jill Renazzi from AIM Hospitality. I also would like to read something quickly. And I think if the video would work, but we'll just keep going. This is from Stephen Ellingson who's the Vice President and Managing Director from Hilton Chicago Oak Hills in Westmont. So people are traveling, vacationing now, conventions are even coming back, but all these visitors, however welcome, are usually here only on the weekends. That's not enough for our hotels in DuPage, as we don't have a convention center and we need the corporate traveler to return. Missing out on business travel means empty hotel rooms. Profits are not being made in our hotels right now, and there will not be profits for the rest of the year. Just a real quick example, Oak Hills was slated to do $32 million in 2020. They ended the year with $8 million, so they're at 75% down. They had 290 employees, down to 25 at the beginning of COVID. They're now at 147, so they are still only at half full. Please, Lee and Jill, any questions that you'd like to ask the hotels? I think it's important that they're here today and tell a little bit about the increases in expenses and decreases in revenues. So Lee, you're first.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. When I was talking with Beth earlier and she had asked if we could come by and talk a little bit about the hotels, I saw her presentation. I really do want to make sure that you guys all fully understand, due to COVID, the hotel industry has been just greatly impacted. As Beth just alluded to, our costs have really greatly increased, with our profit margins decreasing significantly. So as she mentioned earlier, we do have a lot of cars in our parking lots over the weekends, but what we're really focusing on is the marketing efforts. Beth and her team have been wonderful partners with us. And I think that they have an excellent plan moving forward to drive and get hotel rooms back in each one of our hotels here. So, again, we talked about the staffing shortfalls. I think all of us are definitely experiencing that. We have to limit our hours of operation because I can't find a houseman or a housekeeper to service the rooms. We have to put letters in the rooms basically stating it's all upon request because I can't offer daily housekeeping service. So again, I think as the revenues start to generate and come back in, and as we are able to get more creative in terms of how we're recruiting for the team members and all that stuff, I think a lot of this money that the CVB would get is going to go a long way in certainly helping us and all of our members and stuff. So that's all I have. I'll let Jill talk a little bit.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. We, as at the hotels, need the assistance and the help of the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau. Our sales team at one point was a team of 5 and is now a team of 2. So we rely on that partnership to be an extension of our hotel team. We need that assistance for programs such as the grant program, which really helps us win business. Being at a full service branded hotel, I may get a lead that goes out to 100 hotels that are in the Chicago area, that are in St. Louis, that are in Milwaukee, that are wherever 100 hotels are. But if I can submit with that proposal a grant saying, if you come to DuPage, if you come to our hotel, we will help you with this transportation cost. We will help you with this audio visual cost, because these are all added expenses that our planners are seeing. And over the last year and a half, those travel planners have gotten very savvy. So they are asking for every concession that at one time we could maybe say, I decline that concession, or I'm not able to meet that. But now when we are all searching for that weekday occupancy, that weekday business, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we need to review those concessions and do what we can. We talk a little bit about, or we talk a lot about what the pandemic, but as a result of the pandemic, our concierge lounge is closed. Our shuttle is closed. We're limiting our housekeeping service, but all while all of our expenses have increased, our payroll expenses, our food costs. So it's the hotels need assistance, and I feel so confident that when a guest stays at our hotel, their dollars spent are not just staying at our hotel. They are walking to the restaurant down the street and having their dinner there. They're walking to or taking an Uber or a shuttle to a store because they forgot this, that, or the other thing. So those hotel dollars absolutely spread into the community. And it's something I feel very passionately about. Thank you.
So any questions for me? Don, before I forget, I'm sorry, Member Schwartzy, are any of my neighbors on the call wanting to say a few words? Mr. Hill or Mr. Brand, are you still with us?
Yes, this is Don Hill. I'm still on the call. Thank you for your time today. I think Lee and Jill said it best, but I'd also go back to something that Member Krajewski said. We need to find staff. Our hotels are not what they were back in 2019, which I think we would all consider to be a very good year. I think Lee said it best. We can't even realize our full potential in our hotels because we just don't have staff at this point. And you can name it pretty much for every department, but certainly in those departments that are those that help us generate revenue as well, such as in food and beverage. Beyond critical that we need to get staff back in our buildings. And one of the challenges that we're finding is even when we can get staff to apply and accept a position, our costs from a labor standpoint, we're seeing increases of anywhere between 15 to 20% in each one of those, which again, as Jill so brought up, our margins are completely getting devastated. And in each one of our hotels, payroll is quite obviously the very largest expense that we're dealing with. So that is first and foremost. Secondly, we need to get that weekday business traveler back into our buildings. Our weekends don't seem to be an issue at this point, but we do need that weekday business traveler back into our buildings, which is spending money in our outlets and generating more opportunities within the community as well. I think Beth's strategy in that for the Bureau is dead on. One of the things that we've found and that we're seeing is that our neighbors to the east in Chicago, the business opportunities that we would be going after in conjunction with hotels in Chicago, whereas in 2019, that gap in rate was maybe $70. We're seeing that gap in rate anywhere between 10 and 15, and it's very hard for us then to compete with Chicago to get that business opportunity. So again, to keep it short and simple, because Lee and Jill, I think, have pretty much said everything very well. We need to get staffing back in. Then we need to make sure that as we get staffing back in, that we are going after that weekday business traveler and getting people to, have meetings and events again within the communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Don.
Okay, so we'll open it up to questions. Member Schwerzy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for your presentation and you guys being here. With regards to your three-pronged approach, I certainly understand the marketing and I do understand the sports commission studies. The meeting event stimulus funds, $3 million. So how do you see that money being used?
I think we mentioned real quickly, we have a grant program. It's already been in effect. This would be to get new business. So our portal is very easy to use. Jill, and I don't know, Lee, you probably haven't, but your director of sales probably has numerous times. They put in the hotel or my sales team could put in a request. I'm going to use Oak Brook Hills as an example. They had to sell off their shuttles to make mortgage payments. They have no shuttle buses. So if we're competing against a group in Indianapolis, and their hotel will provide shuttle service from the Indianapolis airport to the hotel, but they also like being in the Chicagoland area because actually when we have groups here, they actually see a 12% increase in attendees. We can offer shuttle through that grant program through ARPA money. It is because of COVID. And so we would be able to disperse some money to help that hotel win that piece of business.
Thank you, Member Shorzy, Member Chavez, and Member Rutledge.
So thank you.
I know, thank you for, I knew I had, hotels are, again, we feel like the stepchildren sometimes. So I think it's important that you really knew, I mean, we're all facing challenges, but yeah, I thought it was important that everybody got to hear from the hotels.
Yeah, thank you. And to that point, I think that one of the concerns that has come up from Member Kaczewski and even Mr. Hill is that staffing issue. And what I really want to drive home, and it was something that I learned as a chair of economic development, is how much that this marketing fund is going to do the heavy lifting. Can you talk about that just a little bit more? That once you do that marketing heavy lifting, it's going to open up the hotels to have their resources to bring in the staffing.
So if we're able to do some of the marketing as a region, just like Mr. Bedeloff talked about, we actually are with CMAP as well and have launched a campaign called The Only Thing Missing Is You. So if we're able to do the heavy lifting of the marketing, that frees up Jill for the little bit of marketing that she has. It frees up Lee for the little bit of marketing that he has. And then they can start really, believe it or not, trying to find those temp staff agencies that they're having to hire at $23 an hour to get someone to work a wedding banquet. So again, they rely on the Bureau to push that out on a regional scale. And then that way they can micro target who they need to. We don't fish in our own backyard. We've always said that. It's up to these folks to talk to the businesses that are in the area offering local negotiated rates. They rely on me to go to Indianapolis and St. Louis and all the different areas to bring business in. So that's the partnership. You do you, and I'm going to do us, and that's our strategy. Did that answer the question?
It did. And I love that clarification because I think that that's a very legitimate need and obviously concern of all the hotels, but I think it is that partnership. Secondly, I just want to thank you for the Sports Commission and having this be an integral part of this. I think this, from an economic development standpoint, is a huge opportunity for DuPage County. As a mom who is headed to Grand Rapids, Michigan this weekend for a water polo tournament, I think that when we as a DuPage, we have a huge opportunity right now to look at DuPage and how do we make this a destination that again is then going to turn around and help this industry. So I'm super excited that we are going to have the funding potentially to do that. So thank you for making that a big part of this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chavez, Member Rutledge, then Member DeCiani, then Member Krajewski, then Member Desart. So somebody write that down for me. Okay, go ahead, Member
Thank you,
Rutledge.
Chairwoman, and thank you, Beth, for being here today for your presentation. And I've been a small business owner for over 30 years, and nobody knows who you are if you don't tell them. And I think from an economic driver and from the jobs, and you know, the one thing that you said was for every dollar we spend on marketing, we get 9 back. And that for me is the very bottom line. If we don't spend that money to let people know that we're here, we can't expect them to come here and spend money and you know, to be able to hire people to service those people. So I'm fully on board with this, and I know that you'll do a fabulous job with the funds that we give you to work with.
We believe strongly in small businesses. People don't stay in the hotels and shop on Amazon. They get out and they shop. And that's what we make sure to give them lots of opportunities and inspiration to do so.
Thank you, Member Rutledge. Member DeCiani, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chairman Chaplin. I had a question for Don Hill on the employment issue. You know, we're kind of competing. I'm talking to my clients, you know, and if they're employing people that are $15 to $20 an hour employees, they're competing with a stimulus package that gives people the incentive almost to stay home and make more money staying home than going back to work. And now we've got a shortage of workers because of again, a stimulus package of it benefits the employee to not work. Is that going to be hopefully over after the stimulus ends for you guys, Don? Is that what you're thinking? Or have people actually gotten employment in other industries to deal with this? But I talking to like Giordano's, one of my clients runs 23 of them. He's got busboys that are unskilled, demanding $25 and $30 an hour to come back to work. When these typically are $15 an hour employees. This seems to be a problem where the government is almost competing with private industry. And that's my question for you, Don, is this going to get better soon, or is this going to be a problem long-term? And are we almost better off giving you some dollars to, I know we've got companies that are offering incentives to just to sign on, like give you a sign-on bonus for employees, given the climate that we have right now.
Thank you. I think that we're all very cautiously optimistic that in the very near future, we will start seeing people come back to our business. For one who's been in the industry over 30 years, I think for the most part, those that have worked it in the past have it in their blood, and they will come back in the not too distant future. I think the timing of this, it being summer, and being able to conceivably make what you were making before is quite an incentive to maybe take your time and get back into the job market. So I think that we're cautiously optimistic, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Lee or Jill, or Russell, but I do think that in a short time we'll start to see individuals coming back to work, and if that end up being the case, again, going back to the approach that Beth and the Bureau put together, I think that campaign that has been done, again, grant program and other opportunities to capture meetings and events, and the exciting things that we're on the brink of with the Sports Commission, all go hand in hand with everything, and we need to be poised to pursue all those different avenues in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I echo Member Krajewski's concerns. We have a lot of clients that have a lot of work, and Now Foods, for instance, has 150 openings in Bloomingdale. They can't get people to fill them because they're $15, $20 an hour, positions. And again, people have the luxury of getting a check whether they work or not. So they're taking that option of spending the summer home with the family or whatever. And it's challenging because again, we're kind of competing with an industry that's already been kicked in the shin, especially with the hotel industry. You guys have really, seen some tough times, have stepped up to help the homeless. I know the Motel 6 has really stepped up with the PADS organizations and Catholic Charities. So we appreciate your efforts and want to do whatever we can to try to get you guys back on your feet. So thank you for the update on the employee situation, especially. Thank you.
We appreciate your support.
Yes,
Chairwoman, can
go
I
ahead.
add to that?
Yes, go ahead.
I think one of the things that, like Mr. Bedloff said about working with the universities, I think we even have to start younger. I think we obviously work with the College of DuPage and the hospitality programs in the different colleges, but I think we need to start as an organization and as a county to talk to high schools and talk about that this is a really good career path for you. So we've been exploring that with some under the Economic Development Committee here. So I think, we need to make sure that we're really hitting the kids younger on that. I don't know if you've been in a restaurant recently, those poor folks are trying to figure out how to hold the big banquet trays, right? And so I think there's some opportunities, but we're really having to lose some money in our margins because we're having to pay those dollars.
Member Krajewski, go ahead, please. And then Member Ozog. And then
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And thank you for the presentation. First, this is a pretty big ask, and I have a ton of questions and a lot more information I would want to see before I would even commit to giving any money on this program. We just got this thing at 1 o'clock, but that link that was there, which I think was your slide presentation, I couldn't open the link. I don't know if anybody else was able to open that with those slide presentations, but if I could at least get somebody, that's why I was calling staff to send me a copy of that. Because I think that's the slides you put up on the screen. And I know you made a comment once, I'm flipping through these slides real quick, so I couldn't see all the slides. But one of the things I've been hearing is that, we can't hire workers. So we start going marketing to get people to show up in the hotels, but yet we don't even have the people at the hotels to service the room. So we need to, and it was back to economic development and choose DuPage, how we can find workers for our businesses that are looking for those. The weekend business, that seems to be what the hotelers were asking for because the weekends are okay right now. But we have a lot of Class A office space vacant, as we heard before. So we really need Choose DuPage to help market to get those Class A spaces filled so that then they'll have their business travelers that can stay on the weekends. With regards to, a lot of the slides, they were going pretty quickly, but I saw the one with these cities that were on there. And for the Sports Commission, the cities that were competing against Indianapolis, Milwaukee, Cleveland, St. Louis, and then you had some other cities up there, Detroit, but San Diego, Nashville, Cleveland, Cincinnati, they all have a county hotel tax. You referred to the Cook in Chicago. They have a lot of money that's coming in right now with a hotel tax, and we don't have one in the county. But every one of these markets that we're competing against, these middle markets that you're trying to bring events from or to come here instead, have a county hotel tax. You go to check out there and it's city, county, state on there. And so everybody's got money that they can use then for bid fees and to help compete. We don't have that. Cook does, but we don't have it. And all those cities that seem to be that were on your slide that we're competing against. The Sports Commission, again, in order for us to compete to get these travel teams go to Indianapolis because they have phenomenal facilities. These mid-market cities have great facilities. We need to build them because we don't have them here for the big travel programs. We do for the lower level travel, but we don't have those, and it's going to take a lot of money to build those. So we definitely need a program. So I'm all in on the sports thing, but it's got to be much bigger than what we did in the past. The one PDF I was able to open, which was the attachment, which was those 5 slides regarding last year. And you referenced it, Beth, with regards to $10 million in tax, except you have our tax rate at a 1/4 point. Our tax rate's not a 1/4 point. DuPage, it's 1/2 point. So I guess, yeah, so I guess we got 10 million more than you realize. So we got 20 million instead of 10 on your numbers there, but our county sales tax rate is 0.5%. So I just going off these numbers you gave us, I assume you had some kind of formula to calculate the implied sales for beverage and merchandise, but it wasn't 10 million. We, I guess, generated 20 based on at least your implied sales, but our sales tax rate's 0.5%. So, but I have a lot of questions and I can reach out to you and hopefully I get that slide presentation sent to me, but I'm nowhere near supporting $15 million. Thank you.
Happy to send that again. It apparently was in a Dropbox link that wasn't able to be opened. So I'm glad to do that. I do want to address real quickly the Sports Commission and county tax. Obviously, that's been a conversation for numerous years. There are communities that do not have a county tax. Sometimes the hotels will do a rebate to get the bid fees. And I know that's a very common practice, but that's something we are definitely going to be exploring as we move forward. And we continue to work with our board on that, which Chairwoman Chavez is on. So we'll continue that dialogue. So thank you.
But bid fees is a lot different than having money to build facilities that will accommodate the travel that we don't have.
But I do have a lot of sports travel, and it's very, unique sports. So it's dance, it's cheerleading competitions in our ballrooms, it's the bowling tournaments, it's the soccer fields, it's lacrosse. We do have a lot of sports and we have opportunities, and you're absolutely right. We wish we had more facilities. We're blessed in DuPage to have the infrastructure and not the space. Grand Park in Indianapolis has the space and no infrastructure. I always tease my colleague in Rockford, take half of my hotels and I'll take some of your facilities and we'll have the perfect 2 communities. So, we have to create what we can create and be creative with what we have as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Krajewski, Member Ozak, and then Member Zay.
Member Zay was first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Member Zay, go ahead, please. Oh, and then Member to start after Member Ozak.
Well, thank you, Member Ozak. Beth, last year when we did CARES Act, we put that money through Choose DuPage and you guys worked together. Are we not seeing that again this time? That you're just asking for this? Have you worked with Greg on this regional concept?
I would be more than happy to work in tandem. I think because hospitality and tourism is so specific, we have different audiences. I think there's opportunities that we can work together. Absolutely. But I think we have to really talk about meetings and the future of bringing advertising into small market meetings, into CVent. And there's very specialized meeting trade publications and trade shows and digital that we have to do. But I think there is still opportunity to work with a work, live, and play kind of campaign.
Okay. My other question is, you know, you had one of those slides. What's the buy-in by the municipalities? Obviously, they have a lot to, in this stake. I mean, they're the ones that have the local hotel motel taxes. We don't. You know, I would need buy-in from them. They're also getting millions of dollars locally that they need to come up with some of this, and they're seeing the direct effect of lost revenue. I mean, we really don't. I mean, we don't have, you know, many hotels or motels or anything in the unincorporated area, along with bars and restaurants. So, I mean, what's the buy-in? And my other issue is, I mean, I like your slides, but you're comparing us to major cities and states. I mean, we're a county. Again, we have limited resources. I mean, as Member Krajewski said, everybody knows I've traveled just like Member Chavez all over the country to great facilities, to Ripken and Myrtle Beach, to, you know, Kentucky, to other places for baseball, Wisconsin Dells. They have those facilities. You know, I sat on that thing. You know, the problem we have in DuPage is that we have the pillars there that nobody wants to give up any of their space to run these facilities, to run these tournaments. They keep it for themselves to try to make revenue locally. So again, it's a huge ask, but you know, I would need some buy-in from our local municipalities with their money before I'd have to move forward on this.
To that question real quickly. So our communities have been supporting us for 30 plus years with matching the state grants. So that's one. Two, we already have municipalities that are putting skin in the game for our grant program and have been doing so and are committing to do so. So there is buy-in. As we move forward, I'm proposing with our state association that we have a template so that we go to our communities and ask to help support our hotels as well. So you're absolutely right. I think there's got to be a private-public partnership with all of the players. I do think there are communities that would like to help even more so. So they're going to be looking at their ARPA money as well.
Thank you, Member Zay. Member Desart?
No, me, Mary.
I'm sorry, Member Ozag, Member Desart, Member Tornatori. I have it written down.
Thank you. I just want to comment on the lack of workers and why people are having a hard time, or why companies are having a hard time employing people. And I think that painting a picture of people sitting around a kiddie pool all summer because they just want to hang out at home because they're getting benefits is really unfair. These are our constituents. And I'm going to read a quote from, or a discussion from Esther Duflo, who is an MIT Nobel Prize winning economist, who said in the recent past, a couple of weeks ago, gender inequality, unequal access to childcare, return to in-person work mandates, and vaccine access are among the many pressing issues surrounding return to work in the United States and in the global economic recovery. And I think we all need to remember that we are coming out of an event that none of us have seen in our lifetimes, and we need to really keep our eyes and ears open as to what our constituents are actually experiencing, because this has been very difficult on everybody to varying degrees, but childcare in particular, and I'm thankfully out of those years now, but it's a very difficult situation. You have family structure issues, et cetera. So we need to keep that in mind and not think that everybody is sitting around with kiddie pools and a margarita all summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ozag. Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Beth, thank you so much for the presentation. It was really, really in-depth and awesome. I am more of a visual learner than an audio learner. And I know that Jason Blumenthal sent your slideshow to us at 1:58. So I haven't had a chance to read it and really get into it. So could you, this is a huge ask, $15 million. So could you please, like Member Schwartz said, marketing is obvious, but I'm not understanding the meeting stimulus. Is that kind of like the Choose DuPage Small Business Relief Fund? Are you going to give hotels money? And then please also further explain the Sports Commission at $2 million. How will that $5 million be spent?
So the grant program, what I like about it and how it differs from the CARES money is our grant program is not distributed. The money is not given to the hotel until that group has actualized. So it differs than the small business grant program, that if they showed a revenue loss, they got the money. I kept hearing, well, what if the business goes out of business? Well, they're not going to go out of business if that group has come. So to me, it's a no risk And what I like about it also is it follows the pattern of how business conferences and conventions work. It's a 2-3 year booking window. So again, that hotel is going to be in business because they're not going to get the money, and that group's not going to come until they've come. So I'm happy to explain the program again, but I really like this because I think it's a lower risk payout.
Yeah, could you explain the program again? Those slides shot by really fast.
Sure. I'm going to let Jill explain it again and how she's utilized it to help win business. I think that's a little bit more.
Okay.
Thank you. I think the best way to explain it is to give an example of how we've utilized it in the past. So we had a group that was looking at our hotel, and this was August of last year. And however, they were looking at us back in 2019 is when they started planning for this. And they said, we would like to utilize your hotel. You check this box, this box, this box. However, we're also looking at this other hotel, which was closer to where they were, where their event was happening. They said, so you don't have the transportation that we would need. You don't have the security that we would need. So we submitted a grant to the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau, which works in partnership with the village that our venue is located in. And as a result of that, we requested dollars to be used. So we were able to return back to this group and say, we can offer you X amount that will offset that security expense, that will offset that transportation expense. It ended up being a group that spent about $55,000 in guest rooms. And I believe it was $5,000.
So were you competing with another hotel in DuPage County?
It was another hotel, but it was not in DuPage County. And that's one thing that's very clear with the grant program is I cannot use grant dollars to compete with Lee's Hotel or Don's Hotel. It very clearly when you're, submitting this, it says what other hotels are you competing with? Our hotel, or the hotel we were competing with, happened to be in the Chicago Southland in Cook County.
So Beth, is there a cap to these grants, number one? And number two, how many hotels did you help with the CARES money through this stimulus program?
All DuPage, anybody that has group business, we would help.
But how many, you said that you did this program last year. How many hotels were helped?
We've done this program since 2016, but this would be for new business moving forward. So business that we've lost due to COVID or business that we can try to garner because we have different needs now in DuPage. So we wouldn't go after wedding business because the hotels already have that. So we wouldn't make that grant eligible in a hotel for that, but it would be for group business that we're really trying to secure money through Thursday. We give a point system. And so there's usually, it's a higher value point system when you have a Monday through Thursday event.
Okay, and so how many hotels have been helped since COVID?
Since COVID, we've only issued a couple grants because obviously we didn't have the dollars secured. So that's why we're asking for the ARPA money.
Okay, and then you're asking for $3 million in ARPA money. How many hotels do you think you will be able to help with $3 million? Do you have any estimate?
So since 2016, I've done this program. I've had about 27 properties take advantage of it, with only about $100,000 investment from the CVB, matched by the communities. And we've been able to generate about $20 million in hotel revenues and economic impact. So it's been a very successful program. We did it, not that I need to get in the weeds on this, but we did this because Chicago and Rosemont were able to get an airport departure tax assessed.
Mm-hmm.
So that money went to Chicago to secure meetings and conventions on the backs of visitors coming to DuPage County. So they had a $16 million slush fund that they used for this meeting incentive. So that was the way our board had come up with a new program to help our hotels. We know we can't have the space to host something like the size of McCormick Place, but we knew we could host many of those small to mid-sized meetings. So that was a result of that. But
Okay,
this-
but you're asking for $3 million in this stimulus package for this ARPA money. And I'm wondering how you came up with that figure. How many hotels do you think you'll be able to help in DuPage County with $3 million? I mean, you had to have some barometer to come up with
So
$3 million.
it's a four-year program. We would open it up to not only hotels, but any meeting spaces. So if there was the Morton Arboretum's Thornhill and they had a group, we would help them with security or transportation, because obviously coming from a hotel to the Morton Arboretum would have to be shuttled. So
Okay, let me ask you this way then. How did you come up with $3 million for this part of the ask?
because I've been able to amortize the 3 years that we've been doing that. And I know our hotels are really needing the support. So that's where I came up with the dollar amount.
Okay, one more question about could you walk me through the sports commission? What do you plan to do with that $2 billion?
So the cyclocross that I talked about had a $200,000 bid fee. The Women's Open USBC Championship has a $200,000 bid fee. To put on an event is $100,000 minimum. The Sports Commission really needs to go after and bring business back to DuPage County. So those were the dollars that I took, what I have on my books, which is 20 sports events, and kind of amortize again what I think we're going to need over the next 4 years to really make an impact for sports coming back to DuPage.
All right. Thank you, Beth. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Beth. Did you want to make a comment, Member Chavez? Okay. And then Member Tornatori, then Member
Oh,
LaPlante.
I'm sorry if I stepped the line. No, I just wanted to clarify for Member Zay, because I know that one of the questions that he had was kind of this in the past. I know with the CARES Fund, we did do a lot of grouping of these funds. And I think that Beth said it great. There's a lot of tandem work. And when I initially became the chair of economic development, I was asked to kind of look to see, are there some redundancies? Are there some overlap? Where can these two organizations work together? And I think that they do a fantastic job where they can. I think they naturally find ways, both of them, to come together where they can. But I think the goals innately of their business are so, and their missions are different, who they market to is different. I think it's harder than we want to realize to have these two organizations come together. And I think it's been something that, quite frankly, the board has kind of wanted to do in the past to have more comfort level, but I don't think that's necessarily the right reason to do it. I think the right reason to do it is because it's really, really good for both entities. And in my opinion, I just don't see that at this time. So I think it is important that we support both the needs of the organizations and we allow them to work in tandem, and we trust our leadership to do that.
Thank you, Member Chavez. Okay, now, Member Tornatori, thank you for being so patient.
Of course, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Beth. Thank you for the presentation. Before I comment on my thoughts here, there was a slide that you brought up that showed people on the move and AAA reports, and it showed the states with Illinois at 6 million and the pure Michigan at 60 million. Those are advertising dollars?
Yes, for summer only.
Okay, so Illinois has, I believe, more people than Michigan. Presumably, Detroit and all of the summer homes and what have you in Michigan is more people who probably visit Illinois with Chicago. How does that disparity there, and how are we supposed to pick up the slack because the state of Illinois puts 1/10 of the amount of money into advertising that Michigan does for the summer?
Illinois is a unique
the
state in the fact that their Illinois Office of Tourism is funded by hotel tax. So no hotel tax coming in meant very little programming. So I don't want to just hang my hat on that, but we really do have, and they focus more on Galena, Springfield, and the leisure campaigns. So what we need to do is focus on the regional drive market and the meetings world, which is what our hotels need us to do.
Okay, well, thank you. That's just shocking to me, but to your presentation, I have an affinity for the hotel industry because every summer of my life, from the time I was 5 years till I was 25, we ran a small hotel at Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, as a family. My mom doing the cooking and my brothers and I doing virtually everything else. So I think your goals and your motivation are admirable, honorable. I must admit, even though I knew what that number was that you were going to ask for, the sticker shock is still tough to get over. I'm somewhat concerned about other businesses and what they may need. As someone who owns a couple of tables and chairs in a restaurant in this county, I can tell you that we don't have anybody working that we need to work. And yeah, they're not sitting around, drinking tequilas at kiddie pools, but many people are making more at home than they could be working. And perhaps I inarticulately stated it earlier, but every dollar that we give to something is a dollar that we don't give somewhere else. So, what happens to the restaurant industry if there's a consortium of restaurants that come to the county and say, we need $30 million in order to spearhead what we need to bring back.
I believe the restaurant industry was carved out as a separate entity in the ARPA money. And I know, is that correct? Yes.
Well, that's not going to stop other groups from forming based on what you're asking for the quote unquote hotel and tourism ministry. So, and to get over the sticker shock, and I agree. I don't know that Choose DuPage necessarily is I think you guys can work together, but given the fact that the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau is not an arm of county government per se, I'm somewhat concerned about that amount of money without some oversight on our part. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean Choose DuPage, but it could be our Economic Development Committee. I would definitely not be in favor of writing you guys a check for $18 million and saying, knock yourself out. But if there was some oversight, there was some accountability, just like Choose DuPage has accountability to us, just like the health department has accountability to us, that's what I'd be looking for. And that would be the only way that I think I could be on board for that amount of money, given what we're looking at. But I believe your intent is honorable and your goals are pure. And I think that, I'm all for it. So let's get started on it.
I think Member Chavez wants to chime in here and then Member LaPlante.
Thank you. So that is something that we had discussed and we were trying to anticipate some concerns. And as the Chair of Economic Development, we have talked about this and I would be happy to have our committee have some oversight on this. I think Beth would be more than willing to say, hey, here's our plan. Here's the marketing team that we've hired. Here's going to be the messaging. And we can make sure that this board and through Economic Development Committee is comfortable. I know this is a big ask, but I have to say that ARPA has called out this industry specifically. And I think we need to honor the intent of the act. They wouldn't have made this so specific. They didn't make it this specific in CARES. This is an industry that is hurting. And I think it's a big ask. I know it's a lot to bite off, but I think that Beth has laid out a great case for this, a great need in our county. And I'd be happy if it makes members feel more comfortable for us to incorporate that within a little bit more detail under economic development.
One thing I did not bring was my binder of every single folio. And if you don't know what a folio is, it's your hotel checkout bill, right? Of every single grant, of every single person that has checked out from the grant program. So we have tremendous oversight and I would be happy to work with a committee and yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Member LaPlante.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman. I would just like to say thank you very much, Beth, for your presentation and Greg for your presentation. What I'd also like to thank you both for is for thinking big. And you're thinking appropriately big, in my opinion, when we are as populous as 6 states, when we have, we are in Chicagoland, as you said, we're not looking necessarily to stop people from DuPage County from exploring Chicago or other areas. But we are definitely, we have to keep our eye on the prize that we are looking to draw people in and to make DuPage County destination worthy. I like all of the ideas and plans that I'm hearing from both of these presentations today because we are stepping into our full potential, I believe. And that's what we really need to do to be economically viable, to really have a full COVID recovery, and to drive economic development. So thank you very much for these ideas. I'm excited about them. Of course, you know that I'm behind you, and I can't wait to see what we do in terms of all the sports and the arts and the restaurants, and to really get DuPage County up and thriving once again, and to reach its full potential. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I did want to think big, because even the state is saying, okay, here's your regular money. And I'm like, that does not a recovery make. We've got to think big. I know we talked about why am I comparing us to Indianapolis? We have more hotel rooms than Indianapolis, or about the same amount. The other cities, Grand Rapids, Michigan, we have twice as many hotel rooms. So that's why I put the comparison of those. It's not so much from the governmental standpoint. It's the fact that we are as important and big as those regional communities around us, and we should be thinking big.
Agreed.
Great, thank you. Are there any more comments from the committee? Okay, thanks. So I have some comments and observations. Thank you both, yes, for your great presentations. I am seeing a lot of overlap between what Choose DuPage. You can either, if you want to sit down, you can answer the questions, or because I might have both you and Greg answer questions for me. I am seeing a lot of overlap in what Choose DuPage has presented and what the Convention or Visitors Bureau has mentioned. For example, they're both targeting groups that have been hardest hit by COVID, right? They're both looking at finding help for people that need work, like the industries that need employees. They're both working on that. They're both working on bringing business conferences here, right? So if we want to bring business conferences here, I looked at more of, Choose DuPage reaching out to those businesses and saying, hey, we're open for business, bring your conference here. I'm also seeing, those types of items where I think there is a lot of overlap, and together the request between Choose DuPage and the Visitor Bureau is $22.5 million. That's huge sticker stock, and we have a lot of groups that still need to come before us. I have one question. How do the hotels work with the Hotel Association? Do you get any support from the Hotel Association? I know a lot of hotels are members of the Hotel Association, and it looks like their mission is to, the indispensable resource serving, supporting, and advocating on behalf of the American hospitality industry. So does that give, have our hotels reached out to the association at all as well?
So I could be wrong, but I don't believe Mr. Badaloff does conferences. That's what the Bureau does. We bring conferences and conventions to DuPage County. So I wanted to make sure, right? Am I wrong? Okay. We are a member of the Hotel Association, and in fact, the Hotel Association CEO is on our board of directors. We do get tremendous advocacy support. We pay a membership. They are a membership organization. And in fact, our hotels are so stretched thin, they've dropped many of their memberships with their trade associations. So we do have a great partnership with Michael Jacobson and the Illinois Hotel and Lodging Association. But as far as dollar amounts, not yet.
Okay, thank you.
I think they're hurting like everybody else because they represent the hotels and the hotels aren't paying them.
Right. So what I might suggest, because I don't know that we have a general consensus on putting these requests forward. I think with the health department, can we get consensus on the health department that their ask, we want to go forward with that, and you're comfortable with the health department ask? Is that, I see a show of hands? Everybody? Okay. So everybody is okay with the health department ask. I think I would like to see the Visitors Bureau and Choose DuPage go back to economic development, work on it up a little bit, tighten it up a little bit, see if we can get the cost down, if there's anywhere that they can collaborate. And if they're working together, that might be able to bring that dollar amount down. I think that might be well worth it. Like I said, we still have a lot of groups that we need to hear from, and that's a big chunk coming out. So that might be my recommendation for this committee. I see Member Selman and Member DeCiani. Please go ahead, Member Selman.
Thank you, Member Chaplin. Would it be possible for us to actually do a show of hands to show sort of where the board is on that rather than sort of just assuming? Because I think following the conversation, it's possible people's minds change with the information they received.
Yep, go ahead. Yeah, and then Member Tornatori, we'll do that at the end. Member Tornatori,
thank you.
Member DeCiani, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I understand the roles of both the both entities, Choose DuPage and the Visitor and Tourism, and yeah, they, I understand your point of Choose DuPage trying to go after vulnerable businesses, but in this situation, we're talking office space issues, and with Visitor and Tourism, we're talking hotel, motel, we're talking convention centers, the totally different entities that those two economic advocates for the county are servicing. So while I think there might be some synergies, I think they both have different missions after, going after different clients per se. So I think we need to be careful there. We can't kind of squeeze blood out of a turnip. I think some may want to see the numbers adjusted a little bit, but I don't think we're going to be able to cut this in half per se by letting the entities try to work through one entity or the other. I think there are two separate missions of each each individual entity. Choose DuPage going after the small businesses in the office sector that's being impacted, and picture this: the office sector is probably, I'm guessing, I don't know numbers, but maybe at a 20%, 30% vacancy. Think about the hotel industry that's probably seeing 80 and 90% vacancies. They had to sell their shuttle buses. I mean, that's pretty sad when they're trying to stay alive and have to sell their shuttle buses. That's an entity right in my district that Beth spoke about. So I think we really need to think big picture with this. We need to help this industry immensely. It's been really attacked by this virus, and they've really stepped up and helped the most vulnerable. When our shelters are all closed, these hotels stepped up and housed those people, and a lot of the restaurants like Francesca's and Sam's got they stepped up and fed these people. So the least we can do is do whatever we can to help them through these tough times. So I want to do whatever we can to help Beth. I want to do whatever we can to help Choose DuPage and Mr. Betelov succeed. So these are critical areas. Our small business sectors and our hotel sectors are critical areas. Stardust Bowling Alley is right around the corner from my office, and another entity that could see 30, 40,000, maybe 50,000 bowlers next year if we play our cards right. If we don't play our cards right, it could be an empty bowling alley, and that would be tough. So
I don't think anybody disagrees with your sentiments there, Member DeCiani. Thank you for your comments. I saw Member Krajewski and then Member Zay.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. We have 177 million coming to us, and we got 4 years to spend it. I think our approach should be we take care of our county first, and we heard our county employees and the elected officials and the health department. We have a whole bunch of other groups coming before us, and we're probably going to be the tune of 230, 300, whatever, 400 million. We should then, we get through this in 2 months, we should then sit down and start as a board prioritizing. We haven't even heard a bunch of people coming to us, and we may say they should have it more. And then maybe we reduce and say, what, Choose DuPage and Visitors Bureau, you only get 10 million and 4. But we haven't even heard all the stuff coming to us. I mean, I think priority one is us, the county board, take care of our county staff and our facilities and our elected officials, and then the health department. And then we hear for all the other requests. We still got more coming to us. And again, we're going to have more than 177 million. We have a number of years in order to spend this. And then we should, as a board, prioritize how much, or we don't give as much to everybody. But otherwise it's going to be the first come in front of us as the first ones that get it, and there's going to be no money left over for the ones that we haven't even heard from or we even know about yet. But that's, I think, the approach. We should get our county stuff taken care of first, then we should hear from everybody else, and then determine how much we're going to give to everybody. Some organizations maybe know some, yes, or maybe we give it not as much, but we give some. But otherwise, we're going to give this all out before some groups have even come in front of us. But just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Zay, Member Tornatori, then Member Renahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We went through this with CARES Act, and I was involved with that over a year ago. it's really easy to say yes to everybody. The tough vote is to say no. And like we said, we have a lot of people coming before us. They're going to want money. This is the first blush that we're looking at a lot of this. And yeah, we want to help everybody we can, but we can't. We're just going to get probably hundreds of millions of dollars of requests from everybody. So I think we need to look, I mean, the health department, I think that's a no-brainer for what they did. Choose DuPage, this 4 million for this. I mean, I think we need to hear more about this regional concept. Same thing with this. We need to see our municipality is going to jump in on with the Visitors Bureau. I got no problem giving them money, but I want to see some buy-in from the municipalities with their money. And again, this is a first blush. I mean, we can't be showing hands. I mean, at some point we got to hear everybody, like Member Krajewski said, everybody's presentations, see what we have, and then we got to start prioritizing. And then I know it's been tough, and there's a lot of people out there hurting. We've heard about, we even talked about manufacturing. Everybody's talking about help. I've had a help wanted sign on there for 4 months. I've had 3 applications. Nobody wants to work. I mean, unfortunately, they're working other places. We just can't find anybody. And it's just not us, it's every industry. So I think we have to look at prioritizing, hear these presentations, don't get all, emotional when people are up there. We have to hear everybody first, then figure out where we're going to go. And we have more presentations coming. And when the portal opens, there might be some great projects we don't even know about that will help people. So again, we just have to be cautious of saying yes right away until we've heard every group and every member that wants to come up with something and do something. Yes, we want to help the Visitors Bureau. I don't know if it's to this extent. We know we want to help Choose DuPage. I don't know if it's to that extent, but again, we have to prioritize and see what we're doing here countywide and help as many groups as we can with the money we have.
Thank you, Member Zay. Member Renahan and Member Rutledge. Member Tornatore, did you have another comment? Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, we've had a long day, right? It's been a very long day. I know I'm tired, but we have raised our hand already to approve over $90 million. I think sometimes we spend more time fighting over 40,000. So I think we just need to kind of tap the brakes a bit. I do appreciate the presentations, Choose DuPage and Visitors Bureau. I mean, you have won me over. It's just a question of degree. And I'd like to just keep talking if possible. So that's all.
Thank you, Member. Thank you, Member. Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chairman Chaplin. I agree with Member Krajewski that we need to take care of our county first. But one thing I want to point out is when we're considering where to give these funds out is return on investment. What Choose DuPage and the Visitors and Convention Bureau are asking for are investments in our county. We may get more requests from fire departments and park districts and things like that, but they are not investments. They will be grant money dispersed to those people to help them through COVID. So I agree that we should take care of our county first, and I think that means investing in the entities that can bring us jobs and visitors and sales tax and all of those other things. Those other groups are not going to be able to do that for our county.
I think, I don't want to speak for Member Krajewski, but I think he was talking about our community services department that still has to come before us. It's going to have a huge ask. So we have still more county departments that have not brought forward. So I think to their point, let's make sure we have our county covered before we go outside the county. That's the point that they're making, I think.
Just wanted to make that distinction.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Member Tornatore, and then I think we're going to wrap it up.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I agree with you that I think that there needs to be more information. I also agree with Member Renahan. As I said earlier, again, maybe inarticulately stated, every dollar that we give away is a dollar that we don't have to give away sometime in the future. I would hope staff, before we have another meeting, can come to us with the unallocated portion and give us an idea of who you might think is going to make an ask, because that's going to help me decide what we can give away that we haven't already given away. And I don't want to have to choose between the Visitors Bureau and Community Services and say that say to Mary Keating, we don't have enough for you because we gave too much to Choose DuPage or somewhere else. As far as return on investment is concerned, if we were Wall Street, I totally agree with you, Sheila, but return on investment isn't always about money. So we've got a lot of other things that we have to invest in that won't bring us any money back, but maybe is going to save some lives and do some other things, because this is our money for the county. And that's what we were elected to do, is take care of our people and not necessarily make money for them. So while I understand your point, and I totally agree with it, we've got to also realize that it's more than about how much money is going to come back to the county. So I think that we can have a show of hands, but I'm going to put both hands up because I'm not ready to make a commitment to anything at this point without knowing more. I don't know if anybody else feels that.
Thank you.
way.
Okay,
That's
member
my-
to start and then member to start. Okay, I really want to close this up. So please, member to start, member Selman, member Chavez, and then we're wrapping it up and that's it. Thank you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I just thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that leaders prioritize. And I want my fellow board members to remember that every entity that comes before us is going to make their best ask. They're asking for the most that they could possibly get and use. And I think we should keep that in mind and listen to everybody. And I agree with Member Krajewski and Member Zay that we need to prioritize our health department, our county offices, our county board, our county electeds first, and then wait and see who comes for more asks before we dole out any money to any entity. And also to remember they're coming with their biggest ask, $15 million or $7.5 million. That's their biggest ask. We don't have to give every entity what they ask for. So that's what I want to say. Just remember, they're coming with their biggest ask. And as leaders, we need to help as many people as we can, not just give the each entity their biggest ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Member Selman, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I know there's been some discussion about, prioritizing, which I do agree with, but I think we have all had three priorities since March of 2020. Health related to COVID, economic recovery related to COVID, and safety related to COVID. This program is a major component of our recovery. And the DCVB presentation, one of the things I really liked is the data that shows the rest of everyone around us is doing this. The question is whether or not we want to tell our businesses, no, we're not going to help you attract, revenue and business for the million residents that live in our county. We're going to let all that business go to Indianapolis or to Rockford or to Chicago. I think we have an opportunity to lead here. I think we have two experts in their fields with Greg Bedlove and with Beth Marchetti, who have put the data forward to show us that these dollars will not just bring revenue to the county, which is great, but they will give lifetime career path jobs to residents in our county. And I can think of no better outcome of the COVID pandemic than to have people see opportunity from this pandemic versus just hoping we recover at least sort of close to how we were before. So I would encourage everyone to really think big, think about the future of our county, not just about the next 4 years, because that's what these dollars are doing. They're investing long past any of us will ever be here, hopefully. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Selman. And then Member Chavez to close.
Really quickly, I know. And so I do want to say that this was not done in a vacuum. Like we did have meetings sitting down in Nick's office, looking at the whiteboard, looking at all the requests. I know he has a massive whiteboard of all the requests coming in, and no indications that we were given from staff was that any of these requests would throw off anything else. So it may feel like a big ask, but it's within the realm of other asks of still staying within the bounds of our 89 first tranche, 89 second tranche. I don't think we're really as out of bounds as maybe some people think we are. So it's really not been done in a vacuum. There's been a lot of planning done with it, and it has been whiteboarded.
So much. So I guess we'll do a show of hands for those that are comfortable moving this forward, that want to go ahead and give the green light. So I have
Green light to do
no
what?
to go. Do you want to give the money right now, allocate the money right now to choose DuPage and the Visitors Bureau? Okay, let me see a show of hands.
Why
So
are they being lumped together?
all right, okay, we do them one at a time. Okay, those that want to see money allocated to the Choose DuPage at this time, please raise your hand.
So you're talking about all of it?
No, the 7.5 million to Choose DuPage.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to, please, let me just say, I agree
What?
with Member Desart, where why does it have to be all or
No,
nothing?
no, just to kind of give them guidance that they can go ahead and start planning. to do
I
this.
mean, if I don't vote yes,
Just a feel for the room.
if I don't vote yes,
To be clear, you're not saying you want to give them this money right now.
No, this is just a guidance. Yes. Yes.
Saying potentially allocate.
I'm sorry, we can't hear on
Excuse the interruption, but we lost the boardroom. We can't hear the boardroom, and Greg Shorzy was speaking.
Wait till.
I'm sorry for members online. I forgot you were online, quite frankly. It's been a long day. The only thing I wanted to say is the Choose DuPage request is not an ironclad 7.5 million. It, as I mentioned during my presentation, especially as it pertains to the Regional Economic Development Initiative, because we're working with CMAP in 7 other counties, we haven't flushed out what the exact number is.
And I think just if I could say, sorry, you were holding me back. I do think that it's the same with DCVB. There, we can massage these numbers. It's my understanding that us raising our hands is saying we're somewhere in the ballpark here. Once we get everything laid out, we can massage these numbers a little. If we need to have DCVB come down a little, we re-meet. If we get more exact numbers from Greg Bedeloff, but we are really just raising our hand today to say, I really think that we're in the ballpark. This is what other counties are doing. This seems to be in line with the other ARPA funds requests throughout the area. So that was my understanding. It's not like we are committing today to signing the check.
I'm sorry.
Just because I like you so much.
It's not just about the numbers. Like for me, for the Convention Visitors Bureau, I'm still concerned about the oversight. I'm still concerned about having some say-so, some accountability to the county board, because this is county money, this is taxpayer money, and we've got to understand that we just can't write a blank check, however well-intentioned the Visitors Bureau is. So to me, it's more than just saying, let's move forward, or about the dollars. I think there needs to be more discussion.
Yeah.
And I'm really not prepared to make a commitment unless I know. I wasn't part of the whiteboarding.
Yeah.
Amy, I don't know what's out there or what's not out there. We need to know everything so that it's not in a vacuum. At least for me, I need to see the big picture.
Yeah, and thank you. And just for clarification, talking with our assistant state's attorney here, we are not allocating any funds today.
Right.
We are just kind of giving direction, saying, do we want them to move forward with this, or do we want to see it a little more refined and come back with more information? I think it's automatically going to go back to economic development for a little more refinement, but I think what I'm hearing from a lot of board members is we'd like to see, we want more information because this is a huge ask. We want to see how the numbers were, how were these numbers developed? How are they calculated? And, I think we want to just in general have more information. So today what we're asking for is, do we want them to move forward with this plan, or do we want to have them have a little more work on this and refining it a little bit, and then bring it back to the finance committee, which it eventually will for the disbursement of the funds. So, because today we are not giving out any funds today.
Good.
So what I'm asking is, are these plans something that this board can get behind, or do we want to see it refined and reworked?
I can get behind it if it's refined and reworked. And I'm not being facetious.
Okay, no.
I'm serious.
So let's take it.
What would that process be? Is that I just want to make sure I understand, because Member Tornatore and I have had good conversations on this, but are you comfortable with us just taking this to, we have an economic development committee meeting coming up, what is it, a week and a half, 2 weeks? So if we just kind of massage this a little, we figure out some better oversight, is that the direction that I'm getting? And then we come back?
I don't want to dominate anything here, but I believe that Choose DuPage and the Visitors Bureau should be given some direction and allocated some money. How much and under what umbrella the county oversees it is still something that I'm not terribly comfortable with. I'm more comfortable with Choose DuPage's because we have a different relationship with Choose DuPage than we have with the Visitors Bureau. So to that extent, I'm more comfortable there, but I still need more. And it's
Madam Chair?
About the dollars, but again, that's just me. I'm not speaking for everybody.
Okay, member Desart, I have member Schwarzy and then member Desart. Go ahead, member Schwarzy.
Thank you, thank you. And so I'm going to plead ignorance and or stupidity. I don't know. This is the first time I've sat through these finance meetings with this sort of thing. I know most of you did it last year. So with regards to everything that all the presentations we've had today, going back to this morning, I mean, I guess I was under the impression that these hand raises were more like, okay, we like what we see. Let's put it in the stockpile of everything and we'll come back and visit it all. Now I'm all of a sudden realizing I probably voted to do the whole thing. And I just want to make sure
you're
that's
correct.
not
No,
what-
you're correct. So what we did this morning was say, okay, these projects, start working on them, but they will come before the board. We'll have to vote on each of those expenditures. So
Okay,
we just
okay.
kind of gave
So
them.
nothing aside from the 16 million that we allocated last month.
Exactly.
Nothing else is officially been allocated.
Right, but what we've done is said, like, all those capital projects, right? We've kind of given the green light, to start working on those, bring them forward. As we get the engineering in, we'll approve the engineer, so we'll take it step by step, but we needed to give staff some direction.
And that's kind of what I thought we were doing today too.
Right.
So I just want to.
So this is in the way the same thing.
Member to start where it's not all or nothing there.
No. No, it's not. But so to choose DuPage and the CVB direction on what way we want them to go. Do we want this, to just come back and just spend all this money, or do we want a little more refined, where they can tighten it up? I'd like to see where they can work together. We talk about, duplication of services, right? And things like that. I think there are some areas where we can tighten this up and they can work together. So, and to member Tornatori's excellent points, and member Desart, you had one more comment, and I think after that, we're gonna.
I did. I'm going to mix my metaphors here, but I feel like the guy who won the lottery, and then every second and third cousin is coming to me asking me for a check of my lottery winnings, and I want to go to the buffet and see everything on the buffet before I decide what I want to eat at the buffet. And I might choose to eat a whole apple pie, but I might not. I might choose to have like one slice of apple pie and then a little bit of something else. But I want to see the whole buffet before I make a commitment to any piece of the buffet. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Thank you.
So we're going to try this again. By a show of hands, those comfortable with what was presented today and want the choose DuPage to go, to give them the kind of green light to go forward with this, can I see a show of hands? That is choose DuPage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what do we have? 6. Okay, so member, all right, so so for choose DuPage, go forward today. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And then to choose DuPage to hold off for today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so choose DuPage, you guys can go through and start, planning with that. Now with the CVB, do we want them to go forward with the plans that they've submitted today, or do we want to see that a little more refined and come back with a different plan? All those that want to see it go, give them the green light to kind of work on what they presented. Let's see a show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 6. So we have 6 to move forward today. What? I think I did 6, 7. Wait, Greg, did you just raise your hand now? Oh, okay. Okay.
Madam Chair, are you counting yourself?
No, I'm not counting myself. So wait, let's count it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So we have 6 that want to move it forward. And then yes. Okay, and then those that want to have it come back a little more refined, let's see a show of hands. 6, so it's 6, 7. Okay, so the CVB can take that back and start reworking on it. I would, and I want to choose DuPage. I hold off on that because I really want them to work with the CVB and try to see if they can refine that and work together on that. That was why I said no, but I'm fine with that. So I think we have a consensus. Yes.
Madam Chair.
Member
Madam
Turner.
Chair.
One last thing, and I'm really sorry, but in all fairness, to choose DuPage and Convention and Visitors Bureau, if I see the buffet, as Member Desart says, I may be happy giving them everything they ask for and more.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm saying.
Yes,
Show
absolutely.
me the buffet, Dawn. Dawn and I want to go to the buffet and see what's there.
I think, yes, I feel the same way. I want to see the buffet as well.
My vote.
Yes, thank you so
No,
much. Member,
Yeah, just one thing. I know we just did a raise of hands and we had 8 for the Choose DuPage to go forward, but there's a number of members that aren't here. It's going to take final 10 to move it forward down the road, and we don't have everybody here. I mean, I know it's like 8-5 or whatever was here. I didn't support either one of them, but we didn't even have a clear majority of a board if everybody was here for either one of them.
okay, thank you, Member Krajewski. All right, but I just think that this kind of gives Choose DuPage and the Visitors Bureau kind of the direction that we want them to go in. And I can't speak for the board members that weren't here. They should have been here. I mean, if it's, so that's kind of my comments on that. But do you understand your direction now? I just want, because this has been a little, I'm not sure what buffet we're going to. You got the buffet down? Okay. All right, great. Okay. Well, and really, thank you very much for coming and, kind of taking all of our questions. You've been great sports, so I really appreciate it. Do we have any old business? Do we have any new business? Okay, I will entertain a motion to